what we see on the outside can cause us to miss what God values and sees on the inside. Good morning, y'all. Welcome to Coffee with Connect. We get together on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30. We get into God's Word together with our coffee. And today my mug is a Pittsburgh Starbucks mug. As I've got my Pittsburgh Penguins stuff on, I thought I might as well go matchy today. And so we're going to be continuing through the book of James as we're in chapter 2. And this, in many ways, what we're going to look at today, these couple of verses are sort of a part 2 of what we looked at on the previous episode on the 14th. So if you haven't watched that one, I would recommend that you go back and watch that one first. And we are going through the whole book of James. So if you haven't started from the get-go, then go even further back and go to the first episode of the book of James so that you can go all the way through with us and catch up. So we're going to be in verses 5 through 7 here for the next couple of minutes. And we're going to pray, read, think, write, and do. So if you have not prayed, do that. And then let's read. James 2, 5 through 7, I'm in the NIV, it says this. Listen, my dear brothers and sisters, has not God chosen those who are poor in the eyes of the world to be rich in faith and to inherit the kingdom he promised those who love him? But you have dishonored the poor. Is it not the rich who are exploiting you? Are they not the ones who are dragging you into court? Are they not the ones who are blaspheming the noble name of him to whom you belong? So again, this kind of part 2, like if you read the verses before this, it's kind of where this keeps going, but there's a slightly different thought here because it really kind of sounds like he's putting rich people in a bad light. And we know, even from Jesus, that, Jesus talks in Matthew 19 about how riches can be an obstacle to the kingdom, for sure. The point being that the poor have more opportunities to trust in the Lord there. But it says here that God has chosen the poor. So what does he mean by that, right? Because you think about that, it's almost like he's dividing, like, rich people bad, poor people good, and that's not necessarily what he's saying. What he is saying, that poor people are more ready to respond to the faith. There's fewer obstacles to the kingdom, for sure. But we got to remember the cultural context in which this was written as well, and the things that were going on at the time, specifically to the church that he was writing, and who he was writing to. But this idea of what he's getting at does go back to the previous verses, and also to the idea that's kind of layered throughout this, which is that what we see on the outside can cause us to miss what God values and sees on the inside. So what's God saying to you through this? What is maybe the word pointing out for you that you need to look at, maybe change a little bit of your thinking on? And what do we do then with that? Well, like I mentioned, culturally at the time, the rich were the ones that were sinning against the church and oppressing the poor. They certainly were doing that at the time, if you look at it. And unfortunately, that's a common pattern throughout history. The rich oppress the poor so that they can stay rich. But remember that God doesn't call us to have an unfair bias against a certain demographic. That's never a thing. And God, to have an unfair bias against the rich is never what the intent is. If there's a dispute between a rich man and a poor man, the Bible's really clear that they should, the law should decide the facts of the case and not judgment because of economic class. So what he's saying is that the judgment between the economic classes doesn't help anything. So what we need to remember is that regardless of the size of our bank account, is that we are all in need of Jesus. We're all in need of Jesus and his spirit and his grace and his mercy and his kindness and his goodness. So we should all take the posture And this is really what he's getting at. We should all take the posture of the poor in that way so that we can properly approach the throne of God as we walk with Jesus. So thanks for joining me. And I hope that you'll like the video and you'll subscribe to the channel and share this with someone that needs it. And join me again here next time so we can have our coffee and connect to Christ, community, purpose, and God's word together.